Guys, be patient. I told you we're experiencing technical difficulties, so we're trying our hardest here, but we're gonna pick up right where we left off. I was talking about Kansas. It was a fun game to watch. One of the bigger storylines that is something that no one really talks about, or something that was kind of forgotten about, was the floorboard of I think it was Kansas defending it and UNC scoring that side. One of the floorboards was very loose, and I think that could be the same floorboard that Manic slipped on that potential game time 3-point play, and the one where Baycott rolled his ankle. So I mean, you could say, oh, there's so many speculations and all of that hoopla, but when it comes to it, it was a fun game to watch. I know UNC is definitely going to be back there next year. They're definitely a fun program to watch. Kansas, obviously, we mentioned that they're going through NCAA sanctions potentially with their Adidas deal that was happening back a few years ago. So, and now it's looking like a ruling could be coming as soon as this offseason. So Kansas, they may be riding off into the sunset of emptiness, unfortunately, after winning the title. But, as we head into the offseason, it was a great March Madness tournament. Great, obviously, a lot of fun. When one shining moment comes on, it's official that March Madness has officially ended. But the road to next season begins. We start with the transfers, and then obviously summer camps heading into the fall season, which started in November. So it was a fun game to watch, but sucks to see UNC lose on such a on a prayer like that. That could have gone in if there was one more pass or something like that. But all in all, it was a good game to watch. I had fun enjoying, especially that second half, very back and forth. But shout out to Kansas. Shout out to Remy Martin as well, obviously former Pac-12 player. He lighted it up at ASU, but now first year at Kansas as a transfer, and he wins the national championship. So fun game to watch. I'm excited for next season.
Yeah, next up for a number of these guys is the NBA draft in June, and so we'll probably do some mock drafts and kind of talk about some of the prospects as we get closer in May and early June. And then a number of other players will get ready for next season. So we'll have all that with the transfers and all of the player movement. We're seeing a lot more player movement now with the NIL and players going to bigger schools. The latest being Doug Edert from St. Peter's. He's going to get the bag somewhere at a bigger school. So, one of the many reasons why the NIL was much needed in this college world with these players once, getting nothing for their name.
Yeah, and you can't even talk about predictions for next season because LSU doesn't even have a basketball team. Every single player from that roster has entered the portal. So it's just
or graduated,
exactly, or has graduated. So at this, we're obviously going to keep up with the whole LSU situation along with Kansas, and we're seeing where Doug Edert ends up in that St. Peter squad as we get closer to the draft and the next college basketball season.
So now we'll get into some general news. We'll start off in the NFL world with Stephon Diggs being the latest receiver to get the bag this offseason after Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill set the market. I believe Diggs, I would assume, reset the market with a 4-year extension, $104 million through 2027, more than $70 million guaranteed. Obviously not a huge surprise. Of course, Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill have found new homes with their new contract, and so Diggs was the lone one of that group to stay with his same team from last year. And up next is likely going to be Deebo Samuel, still waiting for his extension, and so still more to come. What's your thoughts on the Diggs extension, Korea?
Yeah, he deserves it. He's a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL right now. He's doing this thing. Obviously, him and Josh Allen have that special connection. Josh Allen throws it somewhere. Stephon Diggs can grab it, still get 2 feet in bounds. So he deserves all the money he's getting. Obviously, he was kind of a little shadowed with Adam Thielen back when he was in Minnesota, but now he's kind of proved to be able to carry his own. And obviously, there was still some speculation that there was rumors that he could go down to Dallas and link up with his brother. And I was like, yeah, that's not happening. And even Josh Allen was like, no, that's not happening. And so obviously shout out to Stephon Diggs getting his bag. He deserves it. 70 mil guaranteed. He deserves it all. And you mentioned guys like Adams and Hill, new teams, new contracts. So good to see Stephon Diggs stick with his original team that he was with. Oh my God, it happened again. No way. Oh my God. Oh, that's hilarious. Oh my God. I'm telling you guys, we're trying our hardest here. We are trying our hardest, but yeah, good to see him in a new place. Not same place. Yeah, and Stephon Diggs, he's definitely that guy. I kind of see him, elevating his game a little bit. I think Stephon Diggs can really, be that guy to lead this Bills team to Super Bowl, because the Bills, obviously, they've been rebuilding. They have the good defense still. They bring in Von Miller on the offense side of the ball. Obviously, the run game is very suspect, but I think if they draft right this time, I think they can find a good running back, to lead that charge. They still have Josh Allen. They still have Stephon Diggs now. I think Gabe Davis is going to be one of their biggest contributors on offense as well. And so, yeah, obviously that was one of the bigger ones. Another one, as Ari is still reconnecting. Another thing in the news, we saw Jose Ramirez. He signed a fat contract today. Was that today? Yeah, that was this morning. Excuse me. Jose Ramirez signed a 5-year, $124 million extension. Hello, Ari. Welcome back. We welcome you back here. I was telling the people, we're trying our hardest here. We're just one former college student, one college student. We're just trying our hardest. We're trying to do
the college apartment Wi-Fi at its finest. That's all.
Yeah, of course. I was just getting right into the news about Jose Ramirez, his contract. Ari, I was going to get your initial thoughts. What are your thoughts about Ramirez getting that extension and staying in Cleveland? Meanwhile, 2 days ago, we were talking about him potentially being traded to Toronto. What's going on in Cleveland?
Yeah, it's definitely. It seemed like Cleveland was looking to trade him, but I assume they just couldn't find that right trade partner to where it's worth it. And then they were going back and forth on these extensions for a while, and they finally, it was 5 years, I believe, 5-year, $124 million. So he definitely got his money that he deserves. And yeah, I still think Cleveland's still kind of in the middle of the pack in terms of competing. I don't think they're going to be a huge threat overall, but still good to see players get the money that they deserve. And it's good that they were able to come to this agreement so that wasn't a distraction into the regular season.
Yeah, Jose, he deserves that all. He's been an all-star third baseman for Cleveland, and the Guardians really love what he's doing down there. But obviously there was a lot of tension leading up with him being rumored to be traded. There were even rumors of him being traded last season with teams like the Mariners, but looks like he has finally got his money back in Cleveland, so good for him. It's going to be interesting to see how Cleveland really builds around him, considering their farm system is a little in the middle of the packs, and they're pretty much the roster is middle of the pack. So they don't have any great stars other than Shane Bieber, and we already talked about Plesac potentially being a breakout star for that team. But they linked an offensive weapon in Jose Ramirez. He's staying in Cleveland. That was one of their biggest signs, and yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. And it kind of brings a little competition to a weak AL Central division. I like it. Makes him be a homer. Not going to Toronto potentially in a trade or something like that. So it'll be interesting to see how Cleveland uses him. Obviously, he's going to be their everyday infielder now that Cleveland literally does not have in Lindor or all those star guys. They still have Franmil Reyes, but Cleveland is still in this middle of the pack, and I think they're going to be trending toward a rebuild. But good that they have one key piece still on that roster for them.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And the last bit of news I had was about the unfortunate postponements tomorrow. Now it'll be Mariners have to wait one more day. And first, it was the Red Sox Yankees was postponed for tomorrow. That was supposed to be the opener of the season at 1 Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. And that got postponed to Friday. And then it was announced this morning, Wednesday morning or afternoon, that the inclement weather in Minnesota is going to push the game to Friday, the opener. I'll never understand these Midwest fields not having a roof when the weather is always bad this time of year.
Hey, you remember last year when Detroit played in snow on opening day? Why is it Minnesota doing this? Like I don't understand why Minnesota. This is no Minnesota slander for any people from Minnesota or Minnesota Twins fans out there. This is no Minnesota slander. I don't understand why Minnesota decides to have home games at the beginning of April when they know it's going to be too cold. I don't understand it.
It's MLB, obviously, not the Twins themselves, but yeah.
It's the MLB, but I mean, it's sad to see. I got to break out my Marco Gonzalez jersey on Friday now instead of tomorrow. But I'm so excited to see the opening day roster for the Mariners. And then we'll definitely be interesting to see how Robbie Ray excels in his first start as a Mariner. And then the Red Sox Yankees, obviously, that was going to be one of the bigger matchups of the weekend. So I guess 2 big matchups postponed. Oh, well, we'll see them on Friday. But tomorrow we do get a majority of the MLB's teams' opening days. And I'm excited. It's the first day of baseball, so nothing like it.
Are you going to the Mariners opener on the 15th?
I unfortunately am not. I didn't get my tickets, and it's already sold out.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna be going sometime after, before in their home stretch, in their first home stretch, because I'm excited to watch this team.
So on Monday we previewed the AL teams, and today in this episode we'll go the same type of route with the NL. So we'll start off with the NL East. We'll start off with the Nationals winning 65 games last year. They're over under 71.5 this year. Of course, led by Juan Soto, second MVP voting last year, 313 average, 29 home runs. They brought in Nelson Cruz this offseason as a DH, with the DH moving to the NL now. So a lot of power between those two. And then Josh Bell, too, had 27 home runs last year. So a lot of power and excitement in that lineup. They're led by Patrick Corbin in the starting rotation. Steven Strasburg is hurt again, and he's expected to be back like late April, early May. So about a month into the season, he'll be back. Those are kind of the players I'm looking at. Korea, what's your take on the Nationals?
Yeah, obviously the one big huge circle on the Nationals is Juan Soto. He is their star. He is their big man. He is their franchise, and they are building around Juan Soto. I don't think the Nationals are going to be in any playoff contention this year. Their starting five is just too weak in a stacked NL East division that has big names and big stars on the mound. And not to mention Steven Strasburg, who is always hurt, is now hurt again. So it just proves that, this team does not have they have great bats in the lineup with Bell and adding 45-year-old Nelson Cruz or ageless Nelson Cruz or however 50, 70-year-old Nelson Cruz. He'll still be hitting boomsticks all day. So they got power with Soto, with Bell, with Cruz. But when it comes to the mound, they don't have any stars right now. I mean, Patrick Corbin is a solid starter, but if he's your ace right now, it's not looking too bright. And Steven Strasburg, is dealing with his injuries. I definitely see this team finishing fourth in the NL East. I can see him winning about 65 to 70 games. North of 70. Obviously, Juan Soto is definitely going to be a major contributor as to why this team wins a bunch of their regular season games. But they're still building. Obviously, they just won a title 3 years ago now, so that was a great story for that team. But now they're on the decline after it's kind of crazy to think this team, who is now like a last place team in the NL East or near borderline last place, just won the title 3 years ago. So, but yeah, it's not looking too bright for the Nationals right now.
Yeah, they definitely have some, solid pieces for the future, but not an immediate contender by any means. So now we'll go to the Marlins now. Won 67 games last year, and they're over under 77.5 this year, so quite a pretty big jump, 10 games.
What?
They're led by their ace, Sandy Alcantara, making his third straight opening day start. I talked about on Monday Shane McClanahan of the Rays being a dark horse AL Cy Young, and Alcantara is kind of in that same boat.
And it looks like Ari froze again. So I think what he was trying to say, Sandy Alcantara being a potential NL Cy Young dark horse. And I agree with him on that one. Obviously, Alcantara, he's kind of been that ace for the Miami Marlins pretty much for the past 3 years. And he led them that 2020 playoff weird year where 8 teams from each league made the playoffs. He was their ace, but I think the Marlins are, about a last place team. I mean, yes, they have Chisholm, who I'm very excited to see. I think is going to be their breakout star. They did bring in Soler. There's not that many great names in that lineup still, and not really when you think about it, not really a home run friendly park, Miami. But I personally think Miami, I think they're about maybe 65 to 70 games as well. I think around 68 is definitely closer for them. And I think Nationals are more like 72 to 75. I think for the Marlins, I think it's just a developing year. I already mentioned, I said, as I was talking, I said, and it looks like the Ari was goes out again, but I was saying that Sandy Alcantara is definitely an NL Cy Young dark horse. As you were saying, you want to expand on your thought before I continue?
No, you can continue where you were, and then I'll go in after you.
Yeah, guys, we're trying technical difficulties, but I was just saying, Marlins, I think they're about a 65 to 70 win team. I mean, yes, they have Chisholm, who I'm very excited to see break out this year. They brought in Soler from Atlanta down to Miami, but there's not that many big name bats in that lineup still. And if there are, they're either probably washed up veterans like a Starling Castro or something like that. So I think Miami, they're still developing. But right now, I like Sandy Alcantara. He's always been he's been their ace for a little while now. I like to see what Chisholm can do, break out, and then obviously one of the bigger bats in Soler. I'm excited to see what this Marlins team can do, but they may be competing for 4th place against the Nats, in my opinion. I have those teams pretty close in terms of how they finish. I can see the Marlins maybe edging out the Nats if things go Alcantara's win, but I can also see the Nats pretty much having a wide gap between him and the Marlins just because of potentially Steven Strasburg coming back and, seeing Juan Soto just do Juan Soto things. So, but I definitely see the Marlins, still as a last place team right now.
Yeah, I'm a little bit bigger on the Marlins. I think they have a potential really good top 3 in the rotation. We already talked about Alcantara, and then Pablo Lopez kind of emerged last year. He had a 3.07 ERA the first half of the year, and then injuries kind of cut his season short. So hopefully he can stay healthy. And then Trevor Rogers had a 2.64 ERA through 25 starts for them last year as well. So I think that can be a really solid top 3 of the lineup. You mentioned Chisholm. They have some pieces in the lineup. They signed Avisail Garcia, and you mentioned Soler. So those two, and then Chisholm, Aguilar. So, definitely not a contending team, but I think, they definitely have a decent enough core to where Marlins fans should at least be, somewhat excited about the future. So now we'll go to the Phillies next. They won 82 games last year, and their over-under's at 86.5. Bryce Harper just finished an absolute tear of spring training, hitting 400 with 8 home runs and 14 RBIs during spring. Of course, spring training numbers don't always correlate to regular season numbers, but still good to see him, hitting well. Coming off an MVP season last year, hitting 309 with 35 home runs, and then with the Phillies, they brought in 2 big bats with Kyle Schwarber and Nick Castellanos this offseason. I talked about how I like JD Martinez with the Red Sox back to the Tigers days. It's the same thing with Castellanos back when they had those two with the Tigers. Castellanos hit 309 last year with 34 home runs, 100 RBIs, so a really solid overall season for him. They have a really solid lineup, still led by Aaron Nola at the top of the rotation, coming off a pretty off year last year for his standards with an ERA over 4.5. So we'll see if he can bounce back. And then they brought in Corey Knebel, who will probably be the team's closer to open the season. Correa, go take the floor.
I actually am a little higher on the Phillies now this year than last year. Last year I was still a little skeptical just because of that bullpen, and they proved me right. That bullpen was definitely very suspect. That is one of the reasons as to why they just could not make the playoffs again. But this year, big upgrade with Knebel in that bullpen. You see Bryant, it's not Bryant. You see Bryce Harper You see Castellanos, you see Strasburg. Those are big name bats in that lineup. I think this team is definitely a third place team. I think, what are they, about 85 games right now? I think they could finish slightly over, about 88. I like this team. Obviously, obviously we know Aaron Nola. He's been an NL Cy Young candidate. Not last year after a bad year, but I think he could definitely be a dark horse as well this year if he goes back to regular Aaron Nola form. I like what they've been doing, adding some big names out of rotation with Fletcher as well. But the Phillies, I think right now they're forming, a great top half of the lineup, but obviously with guys like Gene Segura and Didi Gregorius on the back half, it's not the strongest bottom half of the lineup that you really wanted for the Phillies, but it's good enough to finish third in the NL East. I think this team is definitely middle of the road, north of 88 wins. I like the future for them. The NL East is definitely competitive, and I think what the Phillies are doing is definitely trying to be, one of those teams to compete. Bringing Kyle Schwarber was definitely one of their bigger offseason moves, along with Nick Castellanos, as you mentioned. Those two big bats, they like to lace homers. And you saw Bryce Harper's MVP season paired with that. I think this team can get about north of 88 wins on the year, and be pretty competitive in this NL East race.
Yeah, they should definitely be competitive for at least a wild card spot in that race. With the core they have right now. So now we will get into the New York Mets coming off a 77 win season last year. Their over-unders at 88.5, so quite the jump, and for a good reason with all the additions. The biggest one being Max Scherzer to pair with Jacob deGrom. They brought in Starling Marte, Mark Canha, Eduardo Escobar. So they definitely weren't afraid to spend this offseason. Unfortunately, their injury luck is already hitting them pretty badly. deGrom, we talked about, I think, like a couple weeks ago when he first got hurt, and now he's out for at least 4 weeks. He's going to be reevaluated, so he's probably going to be out for at least like a month to a month and a half, it sounds like. And now Max Scherzer's hurt too, although he's not serious. He should be ready to pitch Friday for Game 2 of the season. They made the announcement today that there's a pretty big surprise that Tyler Mcgill is going to be the opening day starter tomorrow, which you figure if it's not deGrom Scherzer, it's going to be like Chris Bassett, who's like the next up in the rotation. So I'm not exactly sure what the reasoning behind that is, but shout out to him, the former Arizona Wildcat. He showed pretty good flashes last year as a rookie, so he'll look to expand on that this year. Oh, we just have some breaking news. The Twins have traded for Chris Paddock from the Padres.
Okay, interesting. Very interesting.
So we talked about the Twins on Monday.
Yeah, I remember the Twins were definitely looking to they definitely need some starting pitching.
Well, it says working, so I guess maybe it's not like official, but
still, I know the Padres are trying to get rid of Paddock.
Yeah.
And the Twins definitely need some starting rotation help, and I think Paddock will definitely be a big upgrade for them. So Twins, this is big for them. Obviously, it looks like they're trying to build, make themselves competitive in the AL Central. I still have them finishing second, but they're steadily improving. They could make some noise in that wild card race. So this is definitely them maybe making some noise. We'll see.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Okay, where we were with the Mets. So Mcgill is opening day starter, and then Scherzer will start Game 2, and then I think it will be Bassett Game 3. I believe. I'm not 100% sure about that. You got Edwin Diaz and his theatrics as the closer still. He'll look to have a better year this year than he had last year. Of course, expectations are sky high for the Mets. Korea, what's your thoughts on them?
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. The expectations are through the roof right now with the Mets. If healthy, they have a top 5 starting rotation with deGrom, Scherzer, Bassett, Mcgill, and Taijuan Walker. That's top 5 starting rotation in baseball. You can't tell me otherwise. But we're already seeing the Mets' luck just come bite them in the butt once again with Scherzer now being injured, but he's probably going to come on Friday. deGrom once again being injured and probably out for at least a month. So that'll be interesting again. And once again, looks like Ari's video has frozen again, but I'll just keep going about the Mets. I like the Mets. I like their lineup. They still obviously have Lindor. They did lose Baez, obviously, in the offseason, but bring in Starling Marte, Canna, all these big names. They are forming a team, and I think they are trying to form a team where they are trying to compete in this NL East division and potentially trying to win the crown. And last year they were close. The Mets were obviously a team. Sorry, I just knocked over a bunch of my drinks here. Excuse me, but I believe that this team can definitely be a playoff team. I like what they're doing, but in terms of just bad luck, this always happens to the Mets. It's always something. So I think the Mets can definitely finish around north of 80 to 90 games, depending on what is going on with this team, fully healthy. Ari, I know it happened again, but I was just going on. But here we are. The Mets, I definitely can see this team winning 85 to 90 games if fully healthy. Oh, that's the biggest if for the Mets. They got to stay fully healthy. But like I said, they're forming a team. They're forming a team to compete with this, compete in this NL East division. And I think that if fully healthy, I think they can compete. And I think that they can win this division if fully healthy. But right now, it's up in the air.
Yeah, as you said, a lot fully healthy is the only – if they say healthy, they have the talent to compete in the NL East. With the team we'll get into next, it's just about staying healthy. So now we'll get into the defending World Series champion, Atlanta Braves, coming off an 88-win season. Their over-unders at 91.5. The big loss, Freddie Freeman, turned into Matt Olson. Ronald Acuna, who tore his ACL last year, is expected to be back early May, so about a month into the season. Austin Riley is coming off a big season, 303 average, 39 home runs, 107 RBIs. Their rotation's led by Max Fried and Charlie Morton, who are two guys that kind of emerged, especially in the playoffs, in that playoff run last year. And then new closer Kenley Jansen. So a lot of new pieces for defending World Series champion, but still a lot of good pieces that they added this offseason. So, Corey, what's your take?
Yeah, you mentioned this team obviously lost Freddie Freeman, Jorge Soler in the offseason, Freeman going to LA, and then Miami snagging Soler. But, I mean, you get Olsen as your new first baseman, and he obviously has signed a big contract, so he's definitely not going anywhere. You get Acuna back starting in May, obviously after that horrible ACL injury back right before the All-Star break last season. So you get those two guys back. You still have Ozzie Albies. You have a rotation that includes Max Fried and Charlie Morton, who are both very good. And you get Kenley Jansen back as your closer. You can't complain about that. So I definitely say for Atlanta, 91 wins is definitely achievable for them. I have them finishing around 93, potentially 91 to 93, definitely. This team, it's not really about full health. It's just about the talent that's on this team. I mean, obviously, they still have guys like Dansby Swanson and Albies and Austin Riley and, all this talent that's still in Atlanta. And people are still like, they're the defending World Series champs. Like, they should have, respect on their name. And I think they're giving it. And I think they're getting, I think Atlanta is definitely going to be one of those teams finishing atop of the NL East. They lost pieces, but they've filled those pieces pretty quickly with Matt Olson and getting Acuna back, and they have Kenley Jansen now as their everyday closer. So it's basically just same team, just new faces. So I definitely think this team can definitely easily compete for this division, probably win it again, because with the Mets' luck right now, it's looking like it's the Braves' division to lose once again this coming season.
Yeah, it should definitely be a big contender once again. But it should be a pretty exciting division. I think all top three of the Braves, Mets, and Phillies can all compete, for that top of the division. So it should be a fun race. So now we'll jump into the NL Central. We'll start off with the Pirates, who have the second lowest over-under at 65.5. They're open. They started Jose Quintana. who posted a 6.5 ERA last year. So that says a lot in of itself. But they have a couple of solid pieces hitting wise, led by Brian Reynolds, who had a huge year last year, 302, 24 home runs. He was also in a lot of trade talks, but it appears, at least for now, or did he get an extension? I'm not 100% sure, but
I don't remember, but I know those trade talks died.
Yeah.
Right before the lockout ended.
Yeah, so he'll be a Pirate at least for now. And then they have Brian Hayes, who is one of their young top prospects, who made his MLB debut last season. And so we'll see if he can take a step forward this year. He has an ankle injury right now. I think he's like a game time decision for opening day, but he shouldn't miss too much time if at all. What do you have for you?
I mean, Pittsburgh, it's all about the future there. They gotta wait a little bit. Obviously Brian Reynolds, great season for him. I remember there were trade talks with him, but obviously those died. And then Hayes, great year for him, obviously getting called up to Pittsburgh last year. But for the Pirates, it's just, maybe next season. There's gonna be a race for last, and the Pirates right now are currently leading that race. So it's on to next season for Pittsburgh. Before the season even starts, they're already thinking about next season.
They're already looking to the MLB draft next year.
MLB draft, here we go.
So now we'll jump. I think we'll talk next about the Cubs. Over under 75.5, coming off a 71 win season, so a little bit underwhelming for their standards. They made the big splash this offseason of signing Seiya Suzuki from the, I think, KBL, I want to say is where he came from.
He's on the KBL, I believe.
Yeah, he struggled hitting wise in spring training, like batting average wise, which is kind of to be expected. There's a lot of change, from the Korean Baseball League to the MLB, but he did swat 2 home runs, so he showed that power. They also brought in Marcus Stroman at the top of the rotation this season, although Kyle Hendricks is their opening day starter. They had a bit of an emergence from Frank Schwindel second half of last year. He played 56 games. He hit 342 with 13 home runs, so he'll look to build off of that. They still have Jason Hayward in center field. Drew Smiley and Wade Miley in the rotation. It looks like they're going to kind of go a closer by committee with a few different guys in the bullpen. Korea, what do you got?
The Cubs are definitely rebuilding. I like how they're starting to rebuild, obviously, with the big splash getting Seiya Suzuki from the KBO. That was a big acquisition for the Cubs. But yes, definitely, I think the Cubs are right now, I definitely say middle of the pack in a weak NL Central division. I definitely can see the Cubs definitely probably winning about 75 games. Marcus Stroman, he's definitely a great piece to add to that. That rotation that is working back to regular form. Obviously, the Cubs are definitely just in a rebuild right now, losing Chris Bryant to the Giants, losing Javi Baez to the Mets, now on Detroit, and then Anthony Rizzo now in New York. It's just, it's a good start for the Cubs. They found a great piece in Seiya Suzuki to build around. Obviously, they still have Jason Hayward in that outfield, all reliable outfielder, definitely Gold Glove winner for him. So it's just about a rebuild for the Cubs, and they're starting it pretty strong. I definitely see them probably going middle of the road as well, about 75 wins for this team. They had their 2016 magical run when they won the World Series, but ever since then, it's just kind of been, kind of getting ready for the rebuild. So Chicago, love those Cubbies, but at the same time, it's looking toward a rebuild for them, and it's starting this year with the emergence of Seiya Suzuki.
Yeah, definitely, probably close to the middle of the pack, like maybe 500, a little bit below 500 team overall. Now we'll go on to the Cincinnati Reds, who I believe they won 83 games last year, but their runners down to 74.5. They're definitely kind of in a similar boat, kind of looking more towards the future. Jonathan India won Rookie of the Year in the NL last year, hitting 269 with 21 home runs.
Oh, Ari froze again, guys, but I'm gonna take this one again. The Reds. I personally am not that high on the Reds. I think they are right now also contending in that race for last place with the Pirates in the NL Central. You see what the Reds have done. They've let all their pieces go. Sonny Gray's gone. Nick Castellanos is gone. Jesse Winker is gone. Eugenio Suarez is gone. All these people are gone. They are still keeping, at this point, they're keeping Joey Votto hostage. And then they're not getting top prospects in return. A lot of dumpster fire going on with the Cincinnati Reds. Fans definitely disgruntled and frustrated with the organization. I definitely don't see that many high hopes for them. I see them finishing 4th in the NL Central. Just a weak division. But the Reds, after all those offseason moves, Ari high once again. After all that offseason turmoil for the Cincinnati Reds, giving away Winker, Suarez, Castellanos walked in free agency, Sonny Gray is now a Minnesota Twin. It just does not look bright for the Cincinnati Reds. I mean, they have some, some pieces for the future, but at the same time, I mean, they're competing for last place in the NL Central right now. I am finishing 4th, but I'm finishing 4th. But I mean, as a Mariner fan, after seeing that Winker and Eugenio Suarez trade, excuse me, I definitely can say that the Cincinnati Reds could have gotten a lot better return and did not. And that is the state of the Cincinnati Reds organization.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird trade. You thought that, they would get more for Winker and Suarez, but I guess Suarez's contract kind of why they didn't get as much for that, package. But so now we'll move on to the St. Louis Cardinals. Their over-under's 84.5, coming off a 90-win season, led by the duo of Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado in the middle of that lineup. They brought back, as we said a couple weeks ago, about bringing back Albert Pujols to go along with Adam Wainwright and Yadier Molina. So that trio will likely finish off their careers in St. Louis where they started. Tyler O'Neill is coming off a big year in their outfield, 286 last year at 34 home runs. And then one of their key stars, Jack Flaherty's opening up the year on the 10-day injured list. So he should be back probably mid to late April, I believe, barring any setbacks. But, they should, as always, be competing towards the top of the NL Central. Korea, what's your thoughts?
I definitely agree with you. I definitely think this team is definitely going to compete at the top of the NL Central once again. They do have the pieces. They bring back hometown legend Albert Pujols, to finish up his career as a St. Louis Cardinal where he started. Same for Yadi and Adam Wainwright. It's kind of like the last ride for those three. But as around them, obviously they have Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt. Definitely great tools to have. Obviously, Arenado, great third baseman, one of the best third basemen in baseball. And then Goldie, he just one of a power hitter, great first baseman. So St. Louis, they get two elite infielders right there. They obviously still have Flaherty, but he's starting injured. We've mentioned Tyler O'Neill. This team has the same stars that they've always had. They just keep getting better. Like, they still have Harrison Bader. They still have O'Neill. They did lose Colton Wong, obviously, but when you still have Arenado and Goldschmidt and, a pretty deep rotation and a deep roster, St. Louis, everyone kind of rules them out. But, I mean, they made the wild card last year. Had a great game with the Dodgers in the NL wild card. But definitely this team is a wild card game. I think they're going to be competing in the NL Central. But I think the team that we have not talked about I think they're going to own this division this year. St. Louis is definitely a wild card team. And this is going to be a fun last ride to see out of St. Louis for Albert Pujols, Wainwright, and Yadi.
Yeah, definitely a fun mix of the veterans, but also, star players, young players. They have kind of a good mix of all three that you kind of want. And, they should compete again for the wild card or at the top of the division with the Brewers, who we'll get into now. Over-under is 89.5, so it's 5 games above anyone else in this division. So Vegas clearly thinks that they're going to win pretty easily. They're one of the few teams that can compete with the Mets' top 2 of Scherzer, DeGrom, with Corbin Burns, who was a Cy Young last year in NL, and then Brandon Woodruff as their number 2. And then number 3, Freddie Peralta, had a 2.81 ERA in 25 starts last year. So that top of the 3 can be really good. One of the better outfields, too, with Christian Yelich, Lorenzo Cain, Hunter Renfroe. They brought in Andrew McCutchen this offseason, who will probably be their primary DH and occasional outfield. So, yeah, kind of a fun team all around. Coming up a 95-win season. Korea, what's your take on the Brewers?
Yes, this Brewers team is definitely winning this NL Central. This team is looking like one of the best pitching rotations, one of the best pitching teams in baseball. And don't forget, they have 99, obviously all pro, but just top guy in the bullpen. His name is Josh Hader. That man throws heat. So you pair a top 3 rotation pretty much in baseball when they have Burns, Woodruff, and Peralta with Josh Hader, who is lights out in the bullpen, with Christian Yelich, who's a great outfielder. Around him is Kane and Renfroe. They bring in a good hitter in McCutchen. They have a pretty solid infield. I mean, they look like the best team in the NL Central right now, and I think definitely. I think 88 wins is that their over/under? What's their over/under again for wins?
Yeah, 80.5.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely going to clinch that. I think this team is winning the division. I think they're going to compete with the other division winners. But the Brewers definitely have. I think they're what the Mets hope to be in terms of their starting rotation, in terms of health, because we saw what Burns did last year and Woodruff. They're both great guys. You mentioned Peralta with his 2.81 ERA. Hader in the bullpen is lights out, and I think Christian Yelich could be a dark horse MVP this year. On a revenge tour after a pretty sorry year last year for Christian Yelich. So Brewers division to win. I think the Brewers are definitely gonna. I obviously I think St. Louis is gonna try and compete, but I think this is the Brewers division to win this year.
Yeah, definitely the heavy favorite. Once again, and so that's NL Central. Now we'll finish off with the NL West. We'll start down out here with the Arizona Diamondbacks over under 67.5 after winning only 52 games last year. Madison Bumgarner was named opening day starter, of course, and then he'll be followed by Merrill Kelly, Zach Davies, Caleb Smith, and Zach Allen. So a lot to be left desired in that starting rotation. Hitting wise, led by Ketel Marte, who hit 318 last year. You got David Peralta, Christian Walker, Carson Kelly behind the plate. And then they got one of the best closers in the league in Mark Melancon. He doesn't get that many opportunities with this Arizona team. Korea, are you going under 67.5 with this team?
I think slightly under. They're not going down all the way to 52 again. I think, maybe 66 to 65 is right for them. Obviously, they don't have much other than Madison Bumgarner. Zach Davies. Woohoo. A lot of Chicago Cub fans are not proud of that man. So it's looking like Madison Bumgarner and others in the starting rotation. In terms of the bullpen, obviously Mark Melancon, he is their guy. He's a top 5 closer, but when you're not getting any opportunities because of how how bad the pitching is, what else are you going to do? And obviously they have led by their star outfielder Ketel Marte, who used to be a Mariner. But I mean, you know what? It's okay. That was a fun trade for us. But shout out to Ketel Marte. He's doing this thing down there in Arizona. I think he's held hostage at this point because he's the only thing. He's the only guy doing stuff down there and down in Arizona. So it's kind of him or nobody. But Arizona, they're obviously still figuring out their identity. I think this team is definitely gonna finish last in the NL West. I can definitely see them winning about 66 games, maybe 65 to 68 on the year, depending if things go their way. Matt Bumgarner, obviously, still a great pitcher, but just on a very not great team. So it's just looking like Madison Bumgarner, Mark Melancon, Ketel Marte, and others for the Arizona Diamondbacks this year.
Yeah, no doubts. Now we'll jump over to Colorado. They lost Trevor Story, but made the splash of signing Chris Bryant. So they're kind of like you don't know what direction they're kind of headed, whether it's rebuild or compete. But whatever it is, that's where they're at right now. They're over at 68.5 after winning 74 games last year. But of course, Chris Bryant, I think he's going to kind of move around the infield for them. For the Rockies, you still got Charlie Blackmon. He's kind of been their most consistent hitter in recent years. TJ Cron's coming off a big year, 281, 28 home runs last year. Second baseman Brendan Rodgers hit 284. So it's always a fun, kind of offensive ballpark with that altitude in Colorado. It's just always a pitching
Oh, Ari cut out again, guys. You know the deal. But we've been talking about it all again, but all podcasts, excuse me. But yeah, Colorado. They are the most confusing team in baseball right now. Obviously, they lose Trevor Story, and Herman Marquez out of the starting rotation this year. But they bring in Chris Bryant, and that was kind of a big surprise to a lot of people. Then bring obviously the Mariners were pretty much one of the other teams along with San Fran to try and keep Chris Bryant, but he goes down to Colorado, and obviously in a very ballpark friendly hitter friendly ballpark. We can see Chris Bryant definitely going to be hitting the balls out of that stadium for sure. They also have Troy Blackman still, who is an all around great player, very offensive, along with CJ Crone. And we already talked about it already. I already said it, but yeah, this team is confusing. I like them going over their to win total of 68. I think they're a very offensive, and they obviously play in one of the best hitter friendly ballparks in America in terms of altitude and everything. So, but their bullpen is and their pitching rotation is unknown at this point because nobody knows who they are. No offense to Colorado fans, but they're a very offensive team. But yeah, they're confusing, but I know they're going to get more than 68 wins. That's all I'm going to say.
So now we'll dive into what was arguably the most disappointing team of last year, and the San Diego Padres, winning 79 games last year. Their over-unders up to 89.5, so clearly expectations are still that they'll bounce back. They already lost Fernando Tatis to a wrist injury till I think mid-June. He'll be out. You still got Machado, Hosmer, Cronenworth, in that infield. They just made the trade for Sean Manaea in the rotation. We talked about how they just traded Chris Paddock, or they're likely going to trade Chris Paddock, but they still have Manaea, Musgrove, Darvish, Snell. So clearly they didn't have the need for Paddock, which is why they're looking to trade him. You got Danielson, Lamet as the closer, the pretty solid bullpen overall. And, a good rotation if they can stay healthy. It's just injuries that kind of hinders them most, especially Darvish and Snell. But yeah, clearly a lot of talent. Just can't have to put it all together. So what's your thoughts, Korea?
Yeah, this team, very disappointing last year. And I think already off to a disappointing start this year with no Tatis. Obviously, he's one of their big guys, obviously, down in San Diego. But they still have a rotation. They still have a team around them with Machado and Hosmer, who has been in trade talks, but I think is now staying with San Diego until further notice. And they're making the trade to send Paddock to Minnesota soon, and then they're already traded for Manaea. So they have a great starting rotation. We already talked about it with Darvish. Pre-sticky stuff, sticky stuff. Darvish was top tier. Non-sticky stuff. Darvish is, but they still have Blake Snell. They still have a great bullpen, very decent bullpen. I think this team is about to win about 87, 88 games. I don't know if they're going to win 90 games, especially in the hard NL West division. And they're already off to a horrible start, losing their star shortstop. That's not a good start for the Padres. But I want this team to succeed. But the other two teams that we haven't talked about are already making bigger moves. And I don't know. The Padres, I think they're about finishing third in this division. Excuse me. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how they finish the season. It'll be a rough start for them, obviously, with no Tatis. But obviously, they still have one of the best rotations in baseball with guys like Darvish, Snell, and bring in Manaea. So I think the Padres still have talent, but it'll be, like I said with the Mets, just injuries, depending on how if and how they stay healthy. And they're already off to a bad start with Tatis being out till at least mid-June.
Yeah, again, another team, it's all about health. Obviously, every team wants to stay healthy, but certain teams more than others kind of have been, more unlucky in recent years with injuries. So we'll see if they can stay healthy this year. So now we'll jump into the San Francisco Giants, arguably the most surprising team of last year, winning 107 games and winning the division. Their opening day starter, they announced Logan Webb, who blossomed last year, a 3.03 ERA in 26 starts. And then they brought in Carlos Rodon, who will probably be their number two behind him, and Alex Wood as well in that rotation. You still got, the veterans in the infield and Brendan Belt, Evan Longoria, Brandon Crawford. They brought in Jock Peterson this offseason. You had the surprise retirement of Buster Posey. And so you'll have Joey Bart replacing him, who's kind of one of their top prospects as well behind the plate. And so, another, they should be really solid overall once again. I don't know about 107, but their over-under is only at 86 and a half, or was it? That sounds low. I might have miswrote that, but it might have been 96. I think I wrote 86, but it might have been 96. Wait, let me. No, on DraftKings is still 86 and a half, which is a little bit surprising. But I assume you're going with the over on that, Korea?
Oh, easily, 100%. This team definitely has still the talent there. They obviously did lose Chris Bryant after his short stint with the Giants, along with Buster Posey with his retirement. But they have Jock Peterson. They bring in Carlos Rodon. They still have a top rotation with Logan Webb. And they still have Crawford, and they still have bats. Like, people forget, like, this team literally just won 107 games, and now their total is 86. What? Slam that over. This team is finishing second. I see the Giants definitely making the playoffs this year, and this team is good. This team is really good. They are a surprise contender last year. No, everyone, I think even myself, had them finishing near probably dead last in the NL West. I think I even had Colorado and had them in my predictions last year, but they proved me wrong. And look at them now. San Francisco is definitely a top team in the NL West. I can see this team being a wild card team as well, but they ain't winning the division though. And there's a clear reason why they're not winning the division.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just get right into it. The clear, heavy odds-on favorites from the World Series this year. They made arguably the biggest of all splashes in free agency, bringing in Freddie Freeman from the Braves. You look at their potential lineup, you have Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Trey Turner, Max Muncy, Will Smith, Cody Bellinger, and then you have Chris Taylor, Gavin Lux. So a lot of talent. They traded AJ Pollock for Craig Kimbrell, who'll be their new closer. And then you got Walker Buehler. They re-signed Kershaw to 1-year deals, so he's back. They signed Andrew Heaney, so he's probably in the end of the rotation. Buehler, Kershaw, Urias, and then Heaney in the rotation. They're, I think, the biggest favorite to win the World Series by a significant margin. Are you going over 98.5 for their win total this year?
Oh, yes. If this team does not win 100 games, it's a failure of a season for them. But there's one name you forgot to mention with that rotation. And yes, he's been battling legal issues, but it's looking like he's going to play. We forgot about Trevor Bauer.
I didn't forget. I just didn't. Yeah, I don't know.
It's tricky, but it's looking like Bauer is probably going to play this season. So they still have – I mean, we named their lineup, right? Top to bottom. Best lineup in baseball, one of the best lineups I've ever seen, like, in my whole life. Like, I've never seen a stack. That is an all-star lineup. If this team does not win 100 games and win the World Series, it's a failure of a season. This team has been all-in since 2016, and they just keep getting more and more all-in. The Los Angeles Dodgers are the team to beat. It's like the Warriors with KD. This team you can't beat them. They just got Craig Kimbrell in the bullpen. They have a great closer. They have a bullpen that will get them wins. They have a starting rotation that will get them plenty of wins. They have a lineup which will hit the ball and get them plenty of wins. So it's just the map's there. Like, we've seen the lineup, we've seen the rotation, we've seen the bullpen. The Dodgers are the best team in baseball. This team is winning over 100 games. That's a guarantee. And if it doesn't happen, then the Dodgers are not winning the World Series. That's a fact.
Yeah, definitely. We talked about expectations are sky high for the Mets, but they're sky high for the Dodgers.
Even higher for the Dodgers.
Yeah. So that'll do it. We're, again, less than 24 hours now to opening day. It was originally Red Sox Yankees.
Oh, no, it happened again. I'll take it from here, Ari. But obviously, opening day is tomorrow. MLB. We got some games going. Obviously, tomorrow is supposed to be Red Sox Yankees, but due to inclement weather on the East Coast, that game is being pushed to Friday along with the Mariners game. But we still got a full slate of games tomorrow. And we also got the end of the regular season for the NBA. We'll get you. Friday is going to be our NBA special. We're going to be previewing, some of the first round matchups. We're going to be talking about play-in scenarios, all that stuff on Friday. Tune into that as we get towards Sunday, which is the end of the regular season, and then the play-in for the NBA that starts May. Not May, excuse me, right after on April 12th, I believe. Ari, I was talking about it. I said it happened again. I was laughing, of course, but I was just talking about how not only MLB starting, but NBA regular season ending on Sunday. And as we head toward the playoffs and the play-in situation, I'm excited. You have any last second thoughts before we get off?
I think we should just get off so I don't cut out again.
Yeah, I think the internet gods are telling us to leave the studio. We will see you guys on Friday where we will be talking about all NBA. We'll give you the latest with anything news. We'll give us some reactions from the first day. You'll see us in our Mariner jersey because obviously Friday is opening day for baseball. So we'll give you a live reaction of how we feel about opening day for the Mariners. But other than that, this has been AKP Sports Talk. That's Ari. I'm Korea. We'll see you guys.